for another IndyCar battle in the shadow of Giant Stadium at the Meadowlands Grand Prix. 2 miles from the Empire State Building at the Meadowlands Sports Complex, the racetrack that goes around the Brendan Byrne Arena. The IndyCars are ready for the Meadowlands Grand Prix. Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Page. And when we reach the 72nd lap of this race, we're halfway through the 3,765-mile IndyCar season with the winless Bobby Rayhall at the top of the points fight. But it's a very tight fight indeed. Now, at the front row here today, the Penske cars are in the first row, Michael Andretti in the second row. That's going to make for an interesting start.
And very much resembles Portland of 3 weeks ago. Remember when Michael burst through from the second row to take the lead? A controversial move that really caused a bit of ill feeling between the Penske drivers and Michael. If he tries it here, it's very dangerous. A lot of concrete everywhere. But Michael is very aggressive. Give him half a chance, and he will take it. So watch Michael in the opening lap.
The cars are already started and rolling. Let's take a look at the starting grid, brought to you by the Die Hard battery, now with more power when you need it most. The pole sitter is Rick Mears, only his second career pole on a temporary road course. And Emerson Fittipaldi to the outside. He hasn't finished worse than second in his last 3 races. The second row, Michael Andretti, the defending champion here at the Meadowlands, and Bobby Rayhall, the current PPG point leader. The third row, Mario Andretti, the winner of the 1984 race here, and Al Unser Jr., a 2-time winner at the Meadowlands. The fourth row, Arie Luyendyk, who finished a strong 4th here a year ago, and Scott Brayton, who equals his best start on a road course. Scott Pruitt in the 5th row, and Mike Groff with his best start ever. The 6th row, John Andretti and Scott Goodyear. Eddie Cheever and Danny Sullivan in the 7th row. Tony Bettenhausen and Willie T. Ribbs in the 8th. The 9th row, Jeff Andretti and A.J. Foyt. The 10th row, Ted Traffus and Didier Tays. The 11th row, John Jones and Hiro Matsushita. And alone in the 12th and final row is Randy Lewis. The cars have already started. They have completed the first of 2 warm-up laps and are starting now on the pace lap here at the Meadowlands. Line ahead of us, 150 laps, 180 miles of racing. The weather today, well, it couldn't be better. Absolutely perfect. Nice clouds overhead. Temperature is comfortable because the humidity is just fine. Virtually no chance of rain at all today. So now they're circulating around the course here, which they call a distorted oval. And as a matter of fact, they will be using the oval yellow flag rule here at the Meadowlands here today. That is, for the most part, yellow to the whole course. Onboard cameras, Michael Andretti, you look over his right shoulder from the second row. And Bobby Rayhall looking forward through the field. Back into Arie Luyendyk, the field now. There's Bill Cosby, and he will take care of the green flag. No, Bill, put the checker down. He's making Nick Benora the starter nervous.
Poor old Nick had a heart attack when he produced the checker flag.
So here they come as the pace car, the PPG machine, heads on into the pits. And Rick Mears and Fittipaldi rolls toward the green flag here at the Meadowlands. Nick Benora puts him in line, and the green flag is out. They're underway. And Michael Andretti tries his move up from the second row, but they stay aligned. Andretti moves to the outside. Rayhall down to the inside.
In fact, Michael lost the position. Now look, they're side by side because Rayhall got through.
Arie Luyendyk ducks down to the inside and tries a move. Look at him come up alongside Mario, and Arie gets past. Nice little move as he's passed both the Andrettis.
Great start by Rick, but look how tight the battle is behind. People slip and slide trying to get down inside people under that heavy braking.
Rick Mears pulls a bit ahead of Fittipaldi, and as Rick Mears flashes across the line, the conclusion of the first lap here at the Meadowlands, that's the first time that Rick has led the opening lap on a road course since September 19th of 1982 at Elkhart Lake. Now up to challenge Fittipaldi for second place. Great Bobby Rayhall with Luyendyk just behind.
And a great start by Luyendyk. He was 7th on the grid. Now he's 4th. And look, he is all over Bobby Rayhall. This is one of the hardest braking areas here. This is turn 2.
Michael Andretti has fallen back to 7th place. That's Mario that's lined up just behind Arie Luyendyk. And so now they string out here at the Meadowlands on a very difficult, very fast circuit.
And you say very difficult to drive because it's bumpy. It's difficult to see around the corners because the concrete walls are higher than the race cars, and it's extremely difficult to pass.
Arie Luyendyk tries to move to the outside of Bobby Rayhall. Luyendyk still carrying no sponsorship. This is Luyendyk's onboard camera as they came to the green. Now watch him as he darted right inside of both the Andrettis and started to move up. problem at Bettenhausen.
And Ted Prappus. Sorry, it's Jeff Andretti. Jeff Andretti in the Texaco Haviland car.
Jeff Andretti, 1 of 4, of course, starting here. The 16 car is Tony Bettenhausen. And the yellow flag comes out, and as we suggested earlier, when there's an incident, they will bring out a full course yellow. Even though this is a road course, they view that it's very much like an oval, distorted though it may be. So at the Meadowlands now, with just 3 laps complete, the yellow flag does come out because of this incident over here in turn 1 involving Tony Bettenhausen and Jeff Andretti. The twin yellow flags flying at the start-finish line. So we're underway at the Meadowlands. We're approaching the halfway point in the season. There you see Jeff Andretti walking back with one of the doctors, Steve Albee here. Frustrated, obviously.
Very frustrated. Obviously, he thinks it wasn't his fault. We didn't see exactly what happened, but unfortunately ruined the day for himself and Tony Bettenhausen, who had really had his best qualifying for quite some time in that MX Cole car. Tony Bettenhausen started in 15th place.
And here's a chance to look at what may have happened there. They're behind Foy. Ooh, that could have been nasty. They came close. They touched wheels.
Well, we just mentioned how difficult it is to make a pass here. We saw Jeff try to go down the inside. Tony didn't see him, turned in, contact, and that was it.
So now they get both cars off the race course, and we run under yellow. Just outside of New York City in the New Jersey Meadowlands, the Indy cars of kart have reached the halfway point in the season in the ongoing championship fight for the PPG Cup. And today, the Meadowlands Grand Prix is brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, with that clean, crisp, cold taste. Nothing beats a Bud. By your Toyota dealers and their quality line of cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. And by Quaker State, the big Q is one tough motor oil. The Indy cars ran 3 laps, and then Tony Bettenhausen and Jeff Andretti got together in the first turn, and that's brought out the yellow. At the start of the race, there you see Tony Bettenhausen, who stays in his car. He certainly is assuming that they can get this thing going once again. Rick Mears is the leader, followed by Emerson Fittipaldi. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Paul, it's already been a busy day for Team Penske backing Rick Mears, who started on the pole with a new track record. This team this morning in warm-ups, they had a problem with the shift linkage, a failure that resulted in an over-revving of the engine. Mears then missed a gear, consequently, damaged the engine. They had to make an engine change. Did it in 1 hour and 4 minutes. Got him back out to start from the pole. And as you mentioned, he's now led his first lap on a road course in nearly 10 years. He has never, however, won on a temporary circuit. That's the goal for Team Penske and Mears. And, of course, his teammate Fittipaldi right there also as a front row starter just a few laps ago. Let's go to an adjacent pit now. Our colleague working in the pits today is Jan Beekes.
Thank you, Gary. Bobby Rayhall, our current points leader, at the moment has run very well at all the racetracks this season, but has yet to score that first victory. Now, both Bobby Rayhall and the Gallus-Craco team know that he has to score a victory soon in order to keep that points lead. Now, remember that Bobby Rayhall has run well here in the odd-numbered years. He won in 87, he won in 89, and everyone in this pit is hoping he continues that streak in 91.
Another piece of trivia about the car that Rick Mears is driving here. This car already has quite a history. This is the car that was on the pole at Phoenix, Milwaukee, Indianapolis, and the win at Indy, and the pole here. So already quite a history for this car. Let's have a little look at the replay here. Now look at Jeff Andretti goes down the inside of Tony Bettenhausen. I don't think Tony sees him. He squeezes down for the apex, then there's contact. Now look at Andretti right up over Bettenhausen's rear wheel, knocks the rear wing off. Now what's the impact Jeff Andretti has with the wall here? He strikes it extremely hard. Bang, right there.
Pretty much
Tony Bettenhausen, not much damage, only had a spin and lost that rear wing, but a lot of damage to Jeff Andretti's car.
And Tony Bettenhausen has stayed with the car. They hope to get that back into the fight. Jeff Andretti's car is, of course, very badly damaged. So we continue to run under yellow. We've run up to 6 laps now. The yellow flag is flowing for 3 of them. We'll be back with more. We're back at the Meadowlands Sports Complex as Tony Bettenhausen has now made it around, restarted, and is in the pits. And his crew has gone to work on the back of the car trying to attach a new wing to the machine and get him back into the fight. We're still under yellow flag conditions on the course. He's lost 3 laps. Let's go down to Jan Beekes.
Thank you, Paul. If you can look closely at the rollover bar, he's got tire marks on the rollover bar up near Tony Bettenhausen's name. Obviously, we down here in the pits, we can't see the replays, but I heard you describe it. Anytime you get a tire that close up there towards the helmet area, it's a very scary incident.
Well, Bettenhausen is staying with it, though, showing some courage. He stays in the car. Jeff Andretti's car, in fact, did ride right up over that left rear as Bettenhausen closed the door down on him. Apparently didn't see him. Derek Daly's guess.
And, of course, that's one of the problems with open-wheel cars. Remember, Bettenhausen's wheel is open when out in the airstream when Jeff Andretti strikes it. Of course, one wheel rolls on top of the other one, and suddenly, although it looks slow sometimes on TV, they're probably doing 75 miles an hour when it happens, and we see Jeff Andretti fly right over the top and heavily into the wall.
This is a replay of the start from the second row, Michael Andretti's view. That's Rayhall. Boy, when he snapped that gear, he really had to fight the wheel. That's Rayhall moving into third place right now. Michael Andretti drops back into fourth. He tries the outside. Fittipaldi won't let that happen. Rayhall tucks down inside him, too. Now he's being forced further back. And another car to his inside. Oh, a frustrated Michael as Dad comes by fighting with Arie Luyendyk. That gives you an idea of how tough those first seconds can be.
And you see what he tried to do, make the brave move go around the outside, but actually got caught trying to pull a fast move. Couldn't get on the power. Everybody inside him did, and he lost 3 places.
All right, another update. Here's Gary Gerald.
Paul, you mentioned that Bill Cosby, the honorary starter today, he, of course, has been instrumental in helping Willie T. Ribbs get a continued foothold in IndyCar racing. It's been a struggle for Derek Walker Motorsports. Derek is up here in the scoring stand. Willie is in the race. Interesting, yesterday, a fan here in New Jersey came up to Derek Walker in the pits, didn't identify himself, put a letter in Derek's hand. He opened it up and started to read. The fan turned and walked away. In this letter, and he said, I hope that you won't find this offensive or in bad taste, but in a modest way, he put in a check for $200 to try to help this unsponsored team in their continued efforts to become a factor in IndyCar racing. It shows you there are some very dedicated and very appreciative IndyCar fans in this part of the Eastern Seaboard. Derek Walker and his team hoping that they can reward that fan with a strong finish today.
Well, Willie is, in fact, getting some help from the Silicon Valley plumbing industry. But, boy, it's still beyond me, both with Willie Ribbs and Arie Luyendyk, while there isn't somebody stepping right up, because what a great place to sponsor. You already know you've got a car that's doing well, especially with Arie, certainly with Willie.
And the major key towards starting to build a successful relationship with anybody in IndyCar racing is people. And Derek Walker has the nucleus of people to build a winning team. Remember, the Porsche effort, how it grew and became successful and race winners. Well, the same nucleus of people are now trying to put a similar package around Willie T. Ribbs. About that ever-increasing problem of finding just enough finance to put the right machinery together with the people is their problem. But they put on a good show and work hard. And you never know. Someday it might just click and everything might happen and come right for Willie T, because he absolutely has the talent to do the job.
Johnny Rutherford in the Corvette PPG pace car brings the field around now with almost 10 minutes of yellow flag in this particular yellow flag session, the first of the day, as a result of an accident between Tony Bettenhausen and Jeff Andretti on lap number 3. Now, one of the questions coming into this race was fuel. Well, we've got now a lot of yellow time. Is fuel any longer a question, Derek?
Well, the longer they run under yellow flag situations here, the less a fuel problem they have. Now, remember, we talk about this fuel situation quite a lot. It is a major problem here at the Meadowlands. The reason being there is so much hard acceleration away from second and third gear corners. That's what uses so much fuel in these cars. You're accelerating the mass, 1,550 pounds is what the car weighs, under hard acceleration all the time. That absolutely drinks fuel. But the more they run under yellow, the less the fuel problem becomes.
And, of course, when we're talking fuel in the Indy cars, we're talking methanol, especially a note in the news this week, some of the big oil companies looking more and more at what they can do for methanol. Methanol is not a petroleum-based fuel. It's actually fermented garbage. It could be. It could be almost anything. It works very well here. They're still trying to make it work in a passenger car. And now we watch at the starting line, and the green flag comes out, sending them back into the fight once again. And once again, it is Rick Mears. You can see Michael and Mario are up to battle with one another. Mears leads it, then Fittipaldi, then Bobby Rayhall, then Arie Luyendyk.
Oh, Michael did squeeze through. I do believe he did pass his dad. Now, we've seen these two fight tooth and nail before, but Michael did get the position. That's Lyondike right ahead of him, and Rayhall just ahead of Lyondike.
But Michael in a better position now than he was before. But there's Mario ducking down to the inside, fighting with his son. And Al Unser Jr. is coming up to try to climb on the back of Michael. Al Unser Jr. is right there and forcing his way, and then Scott Brayton just behind little Al.
I mean, what a frustrating situation for Michael, because that actually slows you down when you have to creep down inside somebody. So no sooner did Michael think he was clear and head off after Lyondike than his dad makes the pass again.
Looking back to Michael from Ari Lyondike. Gives you an idea of how tight this course is.
Now watch what happens here. Under heavy brakes, so they close up, and you can hear Lyondike go down through the gears. Very close, and he stretches it out under acceleration.
The view back from Lyondike, the Quaker State onboard camera. And there is Mario with Michael just behind him. This is the fight on the course. Rick Mears is already beginning to pull away just a bit from his own teammate, Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi, by the way, the good news is Teresa finally gave birth last Monday to Luca Fittipaldi. And look at this as Michael tries to get his stand down the inside.
Oh, this is a family feud, a family fight, and Ted Prappis finds the wall.
Well, you called him earlier. I hope it didn't cause this thing, as Prappis gets up against the wall over on turn 5 here at the Meadowlands. He climbs out of the car. He's okay, but that's going to be a terribly disappointed man. He's had some bad luck this year, and it's too bad. He's a very competent driver.
Another one of these teams, Say No to Drugs, personal investment group out of California, who are really doing everything they can to get machinery, engines, tires, everything that Ted Prappis needs. It's one of the struggle situations, but they do a very good job. But Ted Prappis' day is very short this afternoon.
With 13 laps complete, we are now in the second full course yellow of the day. This when Ted Prappis got against the wall over in turn 5. We'll be back with more from the Meadowlands Grand Prix. Back at the Meadowlands Grand Prix, Rick Mears is the leader under the second yellow of the day, and Jeff Andretti was in that first yellow. Tony Bettenhausen is back on the track, but Jeff is out of the car and ready to talk with us. Here's Gary.
Jeff, I know that this is a difficult time, and being new to this IndyCar business, you've known that these things can bite, and obviously one just bit you today. Can you tell us what's happened here?
Well, it's just a bad situation. I was trying to overtake Tony Bettenhausen, and I got underneath him at the top in turn 1, and he acted like he didn't even see me, and he had to have seen me go in underneath him, and he just totally closed the door, and I had nowhere to go. I had to hit him, and I got launched. My car got launched. I actually went up over top of him, and I hit the wall damn near head on. And it was just, we were very fortunate. We walked away from it.
Any injuries that you're concerned about at this point? I saw you flexing your hand and your thumb here on the right side.
Well, I think I injured my hand a little bit, just from the steering wheel when I came down into the wall. But other than that, I'm okay.
Well, we appreciate you chatting with us. We hope that there's better luck next week in Toronto.
Thank you.
Jeff Andretti, obviously out of this one, Paul.
Well, exactly what Derek suggested as well as we continue under the second yellow of the day. Just pinched off, nowhere to go, even if he climbed on the brakes. Might have, in fact, because his wheels would have been locked, made it slightly more dangerous than it was.
That's right, and we mentioned right off the top, there's concrete walls everywhere. If you're on line and you get squeezed, you have nowhere to go. That's what he said. I had nowhere to go. I had to hit him. My car flew over the top. Unfortunately, that's an occupational hazard of these street races.
Under yellow here at the Meadowlands, the first 8 cars are all Chevrolet powered. Mears, Fittipaldi, Rayhall, Lyondike, Mario and Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr. and Scott Brayton. Scott Pruitt, with his Judd power, is in 9th position and is the highest Judd. Mike Roth is just behind him. Zero Motorsports car with a great start as well. But I bring that up simply because Chevrolet has now said there will be more Chevrolets available next year, and no indication as to how many might be available. And they're also saying now that if you want to run an extra driver at a 500-mile race, there will be engines available for that. So we're still under yellow here at the Meadowlands. The second, Ted Prappis the cause. His car is on the hook as they take it back to the paddock. And we'll be back with the restart right after this. That's the skyline of New York off in the distance. We're at the Meadowlands Sports Complex, ready to come back to the green. Beautiful Empire State Building, sticking right out of the middle of the Isle of Manhattan. As the field ready to come around now, Johnny Rutherford is the pace car driver, and he brings the field down. And now begins to pick up the pace a little bit. That's Rick Mears, of course, number 3, the Marlboro car, lined up right behind. Then Fittipaldi, then Bobby Rayhall, Lyondike, Mario, then Michael. And here's a good chance to take a look at all of our favorites through the field. The pace comes up, and Rick Mears takes a look at the green flag. Back up to speed. The field well strung out as they come under the starter stand right now. And Rayhall comes up to challenge Fittipaldi once again. Right behind him is Lyondike. The fight is for second place.
And then the
three-way battle.
And then the fight behind is the Andretti's, because they are absolutely locked again. Look at Michael trying to go down the inside.
Michael moves to the inside of Mario. Can he hold him there? Yep, he's got it for the moment. Michael gets around his dad. Now he has to work on Lyondike.
Michael's had more action in the early laps in this race than he's had most of the time. Trying to pass his dad. He passes him. He gets repassed. A difficult day already for Michael. Plenty of action.
Michael Andretti trying to move up toward the front, currently occupied by Rick Mears. They string out once again. Behind Michael, it's Mario, then Al Unser Jr., then Scott Brayton, then Pruitt, then Mike Groff with a great run here today.
So Emerson Fittipaldi very, very close to the inside barrier with his inside wheels there as we watch from Rayhall's great in-car camera here.
Super day at the Meadowlands as now Rayhall still working to the back of Fittipaldi. And Michael comes up to fight with Lyondike. We can keep track of both of these. They're right together on the course. There they come.
Rayhall is so close to the back of Fittipaldi into that S, which is turns 3 and 4. We saw Rayhall right behind him. Actually had a little look down the inside, thought better of it, but he may try it later on because there's a lot of laps here. We're inside it with Lyondike.
The high-speed section from the Quicker State onboard camera. Had a good chance to pass here, but the chance is coming. They accelerate through a very short straight here and then begin to slam down through the gears and through braking.
Very, very heavy braking here. Very difficult area of the racetrack. We see them run over little concrete patches that they put down. And this track did begin to break up during the first day of practice here. But just listen to Lyondike's gear changes also.
And if you're going to make a pass at the Meadowlands, those series of corners right there is where it's going to have to be done. Because as you can see here, looking back from the Quaker State onboard camera, up, and Mario spins it and backs it into the wall. Some damage to the left rear.
Well, well, Mario trying so hard, gets it backwards into the wall. The rear wing is okay, it's fine, but I don't know how hard he hit with that left rear suspension. But of course the car, the engine is stalled. He has to wait for a car safety vehicle to come out if he's going to restart that car.
And the yellow flag comes out again because Mario is in fact in a precarious position. Car's rolling pretty good, though. If you look at the wall, I don't see a smudge there. Maybe Mario gets it under power. Now, if he can get it around, get it back to the pits, a quick check from the crew, and he should be back in the action. Ooh, I wouldn't want to be sitting there. Yeah, he doesn't want to either.
He stalled it again. Had it running. Or doesn't it? Oh, no, reverse gear. Had trouble getting reverse gear. Now, this is an interesting thing. You have to have, it is a regulation in the kart rule book, you must have a reverse gear that does work on road courses. And we saw Mario there use that reverse. Luckily, he had it.
That's the reason why, because if you get caught out on a course, they want you to at least be able to get yourself out of trouble if at all possible. The crew is now ready for Mario as he's already on the pit road. You see the Newman Haas crew has laid out their equipment. Jan Beekes is there.
Mario brings it in. This is the first race that they've had a monitor in the pit. So this time they knew exactly what happened. They've been watching Mario trying to get the thing refired, backing it up, and bringing it into the pit. Normally when you're in the pits, you have no field of vision, don't know what happened. This time they were ready. Oh, he's having a problem with the front wheel there. They lower it too early. A little out of sync here in the Newman Haas pit. Paul?
Well, Mario, he wants to get back into the action. He certainly doesn't want that field to come past while he is sitting stopped in the pits. 24 seconds as they looked at all the tires on the car. And now Mario Andretti comes back to the fight under a caution flag that he himself created. The safety vehicles are now moving back to station, and as soon as they're back, then we'll be able to return to the green flag.
And if he thought he had a hard day's work before him earlier on, wait to see what happens now, because now I don't think he lost a lap. I'm not sure he might have, but he now has to go right back to the back of everybody. So now his day is much harder because he's got to pass everybody. You know how difficult that is.
Here is Al Unser Jr. just a moment ago. Remember last year, Arie Lyondike had a brake problem, had to run off the course? Exact same place. We thought Ari was on his way to the GW Bridge.
I mean, that is a hilarious thing to happen because there is absolutely nothing you can do. It's quicker to drive all the way over, turn around in the car park at the far side, and drive all the way back.
Well, as a result of those situations, first of all, Mario goes one lap down to the leader, Rick Mears, and Al Unser Jr. will line up in 19th place, well at the back of the order. There he is, and boy, look how angry he is. He knows what that mistake meant.
What a simple mistake to make. Remember, heavy braking is a major problem here. That's how he lost control. Look, and he still shakes his head. He is in disgust. Boy, I'd love to hear his radio from pit 2 now.
Well, what we will do is keep an eye both on the back of the field as well as on the front, because you have two of the best in the sport, Little Al and Mario, all the way back when they come back to the green flag, and they should do so on this lap. At the front of the order, it will still be Rick Mears, who has led from the green, then Emerson Fittipaldi, his teammate, then Bobby Rayhall, Ari Lyondike, and Michael Andretti, and all 5 of those have been battling whenever we do have green available. Then Scott Brayton, Scott Pruitt, Mike Groff, Eddie Cheever is in 9th. And John Andretti, who, by the way, is driving the same car that he wrecked a week ago at Cleveland, watching for green. Green flag back out. We're back into the action. We've only had 7 laps of racing thus far, despite the fact that we're on the 23rd lap. The field strung out just a little bit more. No chance for contest in the first corner.
Now Michael has to close up on Lyondike if he's going to make a pass. But it's amazing how easy the competition is beginning to make it for the top 3 guys, Mears, Fittipaldi. Look at the way Rayhall closes right up behind Fittipaldi.
Quaker State onboard camera, take a look at the center of the steering wheel. You'll see a 37.0. That's what Rayhall has to see on his fuel gauge, and it tells him it's time to come into the pits.
And in fact, if the light just hits it right, we can actually see his fuel gauge. It's very difficult to see it here, but you can see the digital dashboard that he has. When that says 37.0, Rayhall knows I have to go to the pits for fuel. I don't have enough to make another lap.
For the moment, nowhere near a stop for fuel. Rahal is free to battle with Fittipaldi just ahead, while at the same time, using a slightly different line, he's trying to hold off Ari Lyondike. Fittipaldi comes to the inside here. Rahal just behind him.
Obviously, the 37 means 37 gallons. That's the amount of gallons he has used out of that 40-gallon fuel tank.
Rahal now closes right up. Michael closes up on Ari Lyondike. The fight is for second place and is at the front of the field. Rick Mears is the leader of the race here at the Meadowlands. 24 laps are now complete. At the Meadowlands Grand Prix, nothing has changed at the front of the field, with perhaps the fact that these cars, all running on the front all the way back to Michael Andretti, have begun to steadily pull away from the rest of the field. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, we touched on the fact early. Many crew chiefs think that fuel is a bigger consideration here than Portland and as bad as Elkhart Lake. But all of this yellow, as you've indicated, has gone a long way toward alleviating that situation. 17 laps under yellow already. That's as many laps as were run under yellow all of last year. So the fuel that's in the tanks here along pit road now will go a little bit further. It should mean that these guys can race harder. Hopefully we'll see better action as a result.
It should make a much better race. At the front of the field, it's still the Penske cars. Mears, Fittipaldi, Rayhall looking for his first win of the season. The points leader rides in third place. And that's where the fight centers at just a moment. Mears up to the fastest section of the course. And Lyondike has dropped back just a little bit in the back of Rahall's car, but he remains in the fight as well. Of course, the wings critical here on a short, distorted oval. Let's get an update on the wings. Here's Jan Beekes.
Thank you, Paul. At the beginning of this race, everyone was very concerned about fuel. Now that we've had these caution laps, it's not as much of a problem. Down here, this is John Andretti's Hall VDS wing. This is called a cascade wing because it has 2 elements to it. The drivers really like these wings because they do produce more downforce, but it does produce more drag and use more fuel. Out of the top 10 runners, only the Andrettis and Scott Brayton are running this. In other words, Michael, Mario, and John are the only ones with these wings. Now that we've had the caution period, it might make a big difference. Paul?
We come back to watch Mario and Al Unser Jr., but Mario has managed to work his way around Little Al as they both have to work their way up through the field. As we came back to green, they started back at the back of the order. Little Al is up now running in 14th, Mario in 13th.
And coming up behind Willie T. Ribbs. Now, Willie T. Ribbs is in the older car, the 90 Lola. It's a Cosworth engine. These are both Chevrolet cars behind him, so they should catch Willie T. very quickly. But remember, they're racing for position with Willie T. Although Mario's a lap down, Al Jr. is racing for position.
Wellens Jr. comes up behind Willie T. Ribbs. That car running well here today. There it is, brightly colored. And, of course, you saw it at the start of the show. Bill Cosby, his mentor, is here watching this race. Bill, last year, Willie said, became a real race fan. He got involved in the project without really being much involved in racing. But, boy, once he saw the race here at the Meadowlands, he became a full-fledged fan. And that's good for Willie T. There goes Michael. And Little Al. Willie T. very wisely lets them come under him. Willie T.'s objective, of course, is to do as good as he can, and he knows that he can't battle right now with those two front runners.
You know that Willie T. just moved over and let Al Jr. pass. That was actually for position, but I'll guarantee you Willie T. didn't realize that Al Jr. was behind him because of a mistake.
Yeah, he certainly thought that Little Al was running at the front of the field,
right.
when in fact he wasn't. He said, oh, I'm going to be a nice guy and let Little Al through. It cost him 13th place.
That's right.
We take a look as the front of the order comes through, and here is the battle with Scott Pruitt and Mike Groff.
This is a great battle here, Paul, also because the racing. Look at Mike Groff as he gets on the power. The rear of that car just fishtails as he gets on trying to put the power down to catch Scott Pruitt. But all the way back to the field, we have great battle.
What makes this such a nice little fight is it's a comparison of engines, because you're looking at Pruitt there with the Judd engine. Just behind him is Groff. Just behind him, the Chevrolet engine of John Andretti. And just behind that, another Chevrolet of Eddie Cheever. So they all run right together here.
And Eddie Cheever has really just clawed his way up to this pack. He had a disappointing qualification, only qualified 13th, which is really someplace he doesn't like to be. But he has caught John Andretti. Cheever, though, was very fast, a lot quicker than normal in this morning's warm-up session.
A running battle for 7th place, currently occupied by Scott Pruitt. And when you take a look at that red car, the Budweiser machine of Pruitt, you will notice they've got see hanging on the right side there, it's an air intake. It looks more complex than it is. In fact, many of the cars mount an air intake there, but what they've done is put an air filter, an air cleaner in there, because there is a lot of debris that tends to develop, especially at this circuit. The Penske cars carry that as well, only what they use is ducting. They don't have an outside protrusion. They have a way to catch the air and just cycle it down into the turbocharger. What it does is when you come out of the throttle, turbocharger has a chance to stall, and by having a little air pushing in there, it keeps the turbo spinning, so it helps the car. Michael Andretti, you're right on board. Lyondike just ahead.
Lyondike having a very good run here. Remember, his engineer is Mo Nunn, who really was the instigator, one of the prime movers in Emerson Fittipaldi's championship win 2 years ago when he engineered his car. Everywhere he goes, the driver seems to win, and Lyondike won this year. And now he has a good car here because Michael Andretti does not really make many inroads trying to catch Lyondike, and Lyondike is absolutely right behind Rayhall. So this first 5 still pretty much all in the line.
Well, it's not just Morris Nunn, Peter Parrott working on that Lyondike car. As now we look over the shoulder of Michael Andretti from the Quaker State onboard camera. He continues his pursuit of Lyondike. Lyondike, who has been driving so well this season, remaining at the top of the fight in the points, and is having one terrific year driving for Vince Granatelli. So still, it is Rick Mears with 36 laps. There's Vince Granatelli, and we'll be back more. Back at the Meadowlands Grand Prix, the Cosworth-powered Euro Motorsports machine of Mike Groff makes a pit stop. This is why he was involved in a situation with Tony Bentonhausen as they fought for the corner. And Groff was lapping Bentonhausen, and they touched, and that sent Groff out into a runoff area and Bentonhausen into the wall. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Mike Groff gets out underway. He came in, and the left front steering arm was bent. They changed all 4 tires. Then the crew jumped up and down on the left front steering arm and straightened it, so hopefully he'll be okay. Paul?
Well, not the kind of precision work one might want on the steering mechanism, but nevertheless, it sends Mike Groff back into the fight in one of the best starts both for Groff and for the Euro Motorsports organization. Here's the situation again, Derek.
Now, he is inside Tony Bettenhausen when Tony turns in, and that's a very difficult maneuver to pull off. You really need to be up alongside the car you're trying to pass, because the other car has no place to go. So I'm not sure that Groff was quite alongside Tony Bettenhausen enough to make the move, but Bettenhausen uses another rear wing very much in the wars with the Amex coal car.
And that dropped Mike Groff from 8th down to 17th position, 19th position for Mike Groff. And he had such a nice ride going. At the front of the order, it is still, well, Rick, and there's Emma, the two Penske cars. And Rick is running away with this race, if you consider the fact that Fittipaldi is staying right there trying to run with him.
And very different driving styles between these two drivers. Rick, when he gets on the brakes up here, uses his left foot. Emerson, the Supreme Road Racer, uses his right foot. Different styles, but both effective.
Rick and Emerson Fittipaldi move around side Randy Lewis and puts Lewis a lap down. At the front of the order, Mears, Fittipaldi, Bobby Rayhall, Michael Andretti. Michael Andretti. Ari Leindyke runs at 5th place. 6th place. And Scott Pruitt runs in 7th place. There's Fittipaldi. He works his way around. Is brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. Now, here's Gary Gerald.
While the course here at the Meadowlands is technically listed as a temporary road circuit with its preponderance of left-hand turns, it actually takes on the characteristics of a distorted oval. And consequently, many of the teams actually set up their race car much like they would for an oval track. One area where you would notice the change would be on the camber, or the angle of the wheels. Normally on a road circuit, you have a symmetrical setup. Both wheels angle in at the same degree. But here on the right side of the race car, they angle in a little bit more. It frees the car up so that it naturally wants to turn easier to the left. One other area where they can make a change is in the tilt of the race car. Down here, the ride height, or the distance between the bottom of the chassis and the racing surface, is fractionally lifted up. So it tilts the car, and again, makes it easier for the car to turn to the left. Now, if they want to make another change, they could actually change the attack angle on the front nose wing, create more downforce on this side, pin this side to the track, and free up this side of the race car. All of these changes, much like you would set up a car for an oval track configuration. But keep in mind, the man who wins here at the Meadowlands is still going to have to be a very accomplished road racer.
It's one of the most technological...
At the Meadowlands Grand Prix, the fight now is for 7th place. Scott Pruitt is in 7th, trying to hold off Eddie Cheever in the Scotch car, and they are closing down on Scott Brayton at the same time. So Scott Pruitt, Cheever together, a little reversal of the situation we had at Portland. Sitting just behind Cheever is John Andretti as well, not in this fight.
Under heavy braking, this is turn 1, very, very bumpy. We've seen Cheever try and sneak down the inside of Pruitt. This is the back stretch into the braking area, and watch the way Cheever moves down, then he moves back up again.
This whole battle just a few seconds ago came past Willie T. Ribbs, who was just passed by John Andretti. And now you can see they have joined at the front of the fight with a 6th place car. That's the 22 machine of Scott Brayton. So it's Scott, and Eddie.
Scott Brayton in the Amway car having his best race for a long time. He has his hands full. He has to watch Scott Pruitt. And of course, while Scott Pruitt drives a bit defensively trying to hold off Cheever, it plays into Scott Brayton's hands.
And closing down on this fight, though still a bit of a distance away, is Al Unser Jr., who, remember, ran off the course, had to find his way back on, and is now running in 11th place. Pruitt drives to the inside of Scott Brayton.
Watch Cheever here under braking. It's very close to him.
Back at the front of the field, Rick Mears, Fittipaldi, Bobby Rayhall, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Still maintaining the same relative station from one another. And you can see they've pulled out some distance from 4th place, Michael Andretti. Michael now running in 4th. 50 laps are now complete for the leader, Rick Mears. Your Quaker State onboard camera with Bobby Rayhall, the third place car. As yet, no change at the front. The tone of the race has remained somewhat confused at the start. 3 different yellow flags. Tony Bettenhausen actually involved in 2 of them, or 2 different yellow flags. And then what might have been yet another, when Bettenhausen and Groff got together, turned out not to be a yellow situation. They decided that they could run around that. Rayhall running third, has finished third or better in 13 of the last 24 races in the PPG IndyCar World Series. But this year he's still winless, despite the fact that he is the points leader. A.J. Foyt clears the way for Rick Mears to come through. 2 four-time Indy champions on the straightaway together. Mears still being chased. And he comes down inside of Randy Lewis.
And a big gaggle of cars under heavy braking for turn 1 there. But look at Rayhall. He's going to try and go to outside Emerson Fittipaldi.
Rayhall moves to the outside of Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi on heavy braking down to the inside. Rick Mears comes up the corner. What they're doing is betting on the positioning of Randy Lewis as they come through this corner.
Look what Emerson does. He moves to the center of the road, so Rayhall does not have a clear run down the inside. Emerson got slowed down by traffic. Rayhall could see that, was going to try and make a move, but Emerson knew what Rayhall was thinking.
Now both of them have to handle up Randy Lewis. They are both faster cars to Lewis's machine. Randy wisely moves to the inside, and it's given a bit of an advantage to Michael Andretti, who's closed down and now comes around Lewis and closes up behind Rayhall. But the other advantage was given to Rick Mears, who is pulled away in the lead.
That's right. So much happens when you catch traffic. You think, well, I only lost 1 second or 2 seconds, but when 1 second and a car is doing 125 miles an hour, 1 second is an enormous amount of track space.
While we think of him as an oval master, you could also say Rick Mears is a master at timing himself into traffic. Now the Quaker State onboard camera with Michael Andretti. Michael runs in 4th place and is beginning to catch up to Bobby Rayhall. Didier Tays being reported out of the race now with an engine problem. And of course, Tony Bettenhausen, after the second contact, they said, let's bring that car in. So that means that Jeff Andretti, Ted Trappist, Tony Bettenhausen, and Didier Tays all out of the race. Looking back, the Quaker State onboard camera. As some of the cars begin their stops. And Scott Pruitt is stopped by the edge of the course. At this point in the race, 55 laps, you wouldn't think that it would be fuel. I wonder what it might be.
I don't know, but when a driver holds his hand up like that and waves it, it just means I am no longer able to make it myself. I need a truck to come and help pull me in. I'm in the way, but I can do nothing about it myself. We're probably going to have another full course yellow. And now Rick's lead will just suddenly shrink.
Indeed, the yellow flag comes out again. Boy, Rick, what was that little pitch? As he comes in, decides, wow, I've got a yellow, I'm going for the pits. Gary Gerald is there waiting.
Paul, he brings it in hot, but he hits the marks without having to skid the tires. Boy, you talk about a precision stop. Fittipaldi is going to flash by him right off the back heel of Richard Buck. He's to our left. Bobby Rayhall is right behind Rick Mears. The Penske team efficiently trying to fuel and retire Mears. He lights up the tires off the jack sideways, almost made contact with the tire from Fittipaldi's car. That was very close. And you have to be concerned if there could be a penalty because it looked like the wheels were spinning before it got down off the jack.
We'll keep track of that. Ari Linddyke comes back into the fight. Bobby Rayhall came out of the pits just ahead of Rick Mears. And what they do is the crew, the minute they see the full course yellow, they get on the radio and they say, yellow, yellow, yellow. Roger would have done that for Rick. Rick said, whoa, maybe I can make it. Stomped the brakes, gave it a pitch, and headed for the pits.
And on his way to the pit lane, we saw him lay down 2 black tracks of acceleration and a wheel spin at the exit of the last turn, turn 5. But a great pit stop by Rick Mears. And Gary Gerald mentioned the wheels were spinning. I hope nobody says anything, because don't tell me a driver can control wheel spin when he's trying to maintain the lead of a race.
And of course, he sits right at the pit entrance into the track and does need some acceleration. Rick Mears, though, with the stop, for the moment, has the lead. in the Meadowlands Grand Prix at the New Jersey Meadowlands. This is the second of 3 straight weeks of racing for the Indy cars of CART. And the fight continues for the PPG Cup. Today, the Meadowlands Grand Prix is brought to you by Pioneer. When you put a Pioneer 6-disc CD system in your... Well, back at the Meadowlands, we're under a yellow flag as Scott Pruitt's car was towed by the CART safety team back to the pits, and the True Sports crew jumped on top of the car. They have refueled it, and now they're going to try to get it back into the fight. They will need the starter placed into the back of the car. Remember, these cars do need a starter inserted to get that engine spinning. They don't carry one on board. And if they can get it started, it looked like fuel may have been the only problem, unless, of course, this engine doesn't restart quickly. But they're having trouble getting the starter located.
It's definitely more than just a fuel problem now, because we see one of the mechanics looking down inside. Remember, this is one of the new transverse gearboxes they have in this car, so the starter shaft does not stick out like the old ones did right at the back of the gearbox. So having a little bit of trouble trying to get Pruitt underway.
Pruitt is approaching 1 minute in the pits, so now we thought for a second that they had it fired, but it's obviously more than just a simple problem and more than a refueling problem. Terrible disappointment for Steve Horn and that group. They've been struggling with that car this year, though every race they make some progress, and it's a noble effort. A car totally made in U.S. Pruitt has actually finished only 2 races all this year, but first year with any race car is heavily developed. That enters into that argument, too. You know, the Chevrolet went through several years of development, and nobody wanted anything near it, and all of a sudden it's working. Suddenly everybody wanted it. Green flag showing to the front of the field. Rick Mears, still the leader of the race. Rayhall with his pit stop got around Fittipaldi on the pit exit and runs in second place as he tries to chase Mears down. Very wisely, Scott Goodyear, the young Canadian, moves to the outside, gives them some racing room down to the inside, but Rayhall is right there and climbing on the back of Rick Mears. It's a fight for the lead. The Quaker State onboard camera as Rayhall through the braking area comes to the outside, but he can't make the move on Mears.
He can't make the move because Mears moved down to the inside, made Rayhall go around the outside if he was going to try and make this move. But traffic really playing a role here. But Rayhall had a superb pit stop, actually past Fittipaldi, exiting the pits. Good pit work by the Craco team.
At the same time, Fittipaldi running in third place, trying to hold off Michael Andretti. And Rick Mears still trying to hold Rayhall. Here comes Rayhall again, swinging to the outside. Now to the inside. Boy, look at this from the Quaker State onboard camera. A drag race down the backside for the lead.
Rayhall is on the inside. He's got the advantage this time.
Rayhall now can force Rick Mears to come in behind a slightly slower moving car. And he does so, and Bobby Rayhall takes the lead. In doing that, though, it costs time and distance. As we look back to Rick Mears, you see right behind him, Fittipaldi and Michael Andretti have closed up as well.
Great move by Rayhall. That pass actually started way back in turn 1 when he went very wide under braking and actually gets the pass accomplished down in turn 2. A great move under braking for Emerson.
Bobby Rayhall.
Rayhall.
Bobby Rayhall taking the lead now. Only the 8th lap that he has led all year as he flashes over the start-finish line. So Bobby Rayhall, the points leader, looking for his first win. Now he's caught up behind Mike Groff's Cosworth Power number 50 machine, and that lets everybody else close down on him.
Well, we saw Rayhall try to get down the inside, thought better of it, did back off, and look at Mears right up behind Rayhall again. Very difficult to get down inside somebody under braking. A dangerous maneuver. You better be very sure of who you're racing with.
On the curving pit straight here, Mears comes around Groff. Andretti and Michael Andretti and Fittipaldi are running right together, and Michael ducks inside of Fittipaldi. Again, the Quaker State onboard camera. Again, Michael, and he gets around Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi comes to the inside and gets Michael back right away.
In fact, Michael had his hands full trying to get inside Scott Goodyear, which is what we saw from his in-car camera. So now he sets out after Emerson.
After 3 minutes and 18 seconds in the pits, Scott Pruitt is back into the action, and Mario spins a second time today. Again, a most precarious position and some damage to the wing in the front of the car, especially to the right side, but the whole thing is twisted.
This again is at the bottom.
And Scott Brayton involved as well, perhaps?
Yeah. This is turn 2. This is where all the action's happening. Look at that left front wing of Mario's. Looks like he got down inside Brayton. There wasn't enough room, forced the issue, broke the machinery, heads for the pit. I don't know. It's becoming a long day for Mario.
Of course, some of that is conjecture. Maybe we can get an idea when we look back at it. Here's what we have.
It's turn 1, the end of the back straight. Now, obviously, Mario probably tried to go down the inside of Scott Brayton. We don't have a good view of it, so we can only speculate on what happened. But Brayton was ahead. Mario was trying to make the pass.
What we do know is the two cars did get together. Mario, of course, trying to work his way back up through the field after an earlier spin. Came upon Brayton. And the corner workers should have been able to get Brayton going. That may have been him that we just saw pull away from us. Okay. We'll keep track of Scott Brayton at the front of the order. We continue to keep track of the battle. First, second, third, and fourth. The leader is Rayhall. Second is Rick Mears. Then Fittipaldi, Michael Andretti. You're looking at them all four right together.
Right together. And Emerson would like to get by Rick because he sees Rayhall an inch away. But his time is occupied by watching Michael.
Oh, the Mario Andretti situation. Maybe we can get a further update. Jan Beekes is in his pit. Jan?
Mario is in. They're going to attempt to change the whole front nose box. He's got front upper A-arm damage as well as the whole front nose box. So a lot of damage on the Kmart Newman Haas car here. And they're going to try their best to get it going. And Gary, go ahead.
Bobby Rayhall, the leader, closes up behind Scott Brayton. We thought that he got restarted again. He has. Of course, he's well off the pace now. And Bobby Rayhall chasing Scott Brayton, has Rick and Fittipaldi and Michael all closing up behind once again.
And we got a great shot in the pits of Mario there. It was, in fact, the right front suspension that was broken on Mario's car. So that does suggest he did try to go down inside Scott Brayton. Just look at this.
The fight continues. The Quaker State onboard camera using Scott Brayton's car in front. Boy, look at him pitch the wheel as he tries to get around Fittipaldi, and this time, in fact, the job is done. Michael Andretti moves up to third place. Fittipaldi back to fourth.
My word, we see these guys jockey for position as they come down this back straight. We saw Michael go down the outside. He locked up that right front just before he turned in, but he did have enough room to get past Emerson.
And Scott Brayton, the Hertz Celanese Amway car, the innovator they call it, as he is running at the same pace as the leaders of this race. Michael Andretti, third place car now, just behind him. Fittipaldi, he's back just a bit. The Scott Pruitt situation, let's get an update from Gary Gerald.
Well, just a quick note to update. There was consternation here for this crew led by Steve Horn and the All-American True Sports team. They ran out of fuel on course. They got him back. Laboriously, they were able to finally get Scott restarted, and he's on course. But the reason they're confused, their onboard telemetry, which provides information here in the pits, indicated he shouldn't be out of fuel, when in fact he was. Paul?
Well, sometimes those computers are not as smart as we all think they are. So in this case, adversely so for Steve Horn and the True Sports organization. Bobby Rayhall, the SDP Craco car. Maury Cranes, the owner, still recovering from his operation. He's got to be happy to recognize that number 18, Bobby Rayhall, his car, is riding at the top of the order. Can he stay there? We'll be back. Pennzoil yellow car, number 4, John Andretti, flashes across the line with Al Unser Jr. in a battle between the oils just behind him. Remember, little Al ran off the course and has been steadily trying to work his way up. Well, now he is just behind John Andretti. John Andretti is in 6th place. Don't forget, Major League Baseball tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, Texas at Toronto. And we keep a watch. Quaker State onboard camera over little Al's shoulder. John Andretti, the winner of the very first race of the season, the very first race in Australia. By the way, the Australian promoter is here already planning big to-do for next year.
And John Andretti, a bit of a low profile, really, since he won that race. Had an unfortunate incident at Cleveland last weekend, but really low profile for doing a workmanlike job. But look at this. Look at Michael all the way up behind Rick Mears.
Fight for second place. Mears currently in it. Quaker State on board view. Michael Andretti runs third. Fittipaldi is just behind him, then Lyondike.
The face of this race definitely changed pleased after those pit stops because we saw the two Penskes. Look at Michael have a little look down the inside. Rick goes wide, then chops down, takes the line close to the door. But we saw the two Penskes really so dominant all through that first section. As soon as the pit stop started, they've got new tires, more fuel, cars handle a little bit differently. Suddenly, both Penskes have their hands full.
Average speed of the race is down around 84.6 miles an hour. Track record here, set by Alan Jr. in 88, is 99.3 miles an hour. So they are well off a record pace with all of these yellows. The slingshot action of Fittipaldi as he comes Flower Brick and he comes flying off the corner and goes around A.J. Foyt. Willie T. Ribbs, who started 16th, still in the fight, has now moved up to 12th place. And Hiro Mashusta started 22nd, is up running in 13th place now.
Emerson's watching what's going on ahead of him. He sees Rick, he sees Michael. Emerson's about 10 car lengths behind, not able to quite jump right up to them, but hopes the traffic will give him a helping hand. But Emerson just not quite able to claw his way up to Michael at the moment.
Well, almost simultaneously. We reached the halfway point in the season, and just now the halfway point in the race. As we flash past the 76th lap, goes into the record books. The complexion is that Bobby Rayhall could well be on his way to his first win of the year. But with yet half the race to go, there's much that can happen on this very tight circuit around the Brendan Byrne Arena at the Meadowlands Sports Complex. Remember, they started with a full road course here that went back and forth over Highway 120. But now, this distorted oval just around the Brendan Byrne. And it's made for some great racing here. And to show you the fans are responding, if this is any measure of success, there were a bunch of ticket scalpers out in front of the complex this year. Quaker State onboard camera with the leader, Bobby Rayhall.
Look where he has Craco and STP. That's actually the steering arm connected to the outside wheels from the steering, obviously. Watch the way that moves around the next time we go inside Rayhall's in-car camera.
Now, this race recap is brought to you by Pioneer Electronics, the art of entertainment. Rayhall, the leader now, second leader of the day, shared it only with Rick Mears, who has led most of the race thus far. 4 cautions have really slowed down that average speed to 185.1 miles an hour right now.
Now we get a real good look at the steering input by watching the Craco, STP, and Molson signs. Look, he puts the lock on, the steering arm moves it. Look at those little corrections to keep that car straight all the time. Even down the straight, you see those constant little corrections as the suspension moves up and down, and Rayhall fights to keep the car straight.
That's Eddie Cheever, the target car. His owner, Chip Ganassi, is also one of the partners in promotion of this event at the Meadowlands. And Chip has been running back and forth when the cars are out practicing. He's been with the car, and he runs back and puts on his promoter's hat. But they've done a fine job here. Had a lot of rain at the Meadowlands yesterday, and in fact, many of the teams decided not to take advantage of track time that was afforded them. And the qualifying times all were recorded on Friday in the dry here, with Rick Mears, of course, starting on the pole. Bobby Rayhall is the leader now. Rick Mears sits about 3 seconds back behind Rayhall, and Michael Andretti runs in third. He's beginning to close now, and in just a few moments should be able to battle with Rick Mears. Eddie Cheever is trying to stay on the tail end of the lead lap right now, just ahead of Rayhall. Cheever is running in 8th spot. Let's go down to the pits, Gary Gerald.
Bud Stanner is involved as one of the co-promoters of this event with Chip Ganassi, who's in the scoring stand for Eddie Cheever. A lot of speculation, Bud, about the future of this race. Will it continue to be run here at the Meadowlands?
Well, Gary, thanks a lot for giving me a chance to talk about that. As you know, last year we announced our intent to try and move this race to New York City. Since then, Chip and I and all of our associates have worked real hard on that, and we think that we're going to have a decision here in the next 60 or 90 days. Our sponsor, Marlboro, is really behind us and helping us a lot. We've had several meetings with the New York City officials, and things look very, very good right now. Anytime you try and do something this big in New York City around the World Trade Center, it takes a lot of planning and a lot of logistics. So we made tremendous progress in the last year.
What about reports that this event might move to the Washington, D.C. area?
Well, we have been working with Washington, D.C. parallel to New York City, but basically in our minds right now, it would be New York and or Washington, D.C. We might very well do both, because the Washington, D.C. people have really welcomed us with open arms, and they really want to see one of these events in their town.
All right, well, we thank you for the information. We'll hopefully have a decision in the next 60 days.
Gary. Thank you.
Paul?
Ari Leyendijk into the pits. The Granatelli car.
Not a good sign.
Yeah, they're going to spend a lot of time. Looks like they're actually changing something on the gearbox of that machine. They showed me where they would run in D.C. down in the southeast corner and along the water. It'd be very, very pretty.
One of the great reasons that they have these races in these big cities. Remember, IndyCar racing goes worldwide. And it's a great promotional event for the city, and it really enhances the reputation and the image of these cities when they hold such a high-profile event as an IndyCar race.
Well, look at last year, first race in Denver. We'll be going there in August. First race in Denver, and a very angry Rayhall. He's not happy with Cheever, but of course Cheever is trying to keep himself on the leader lap. Denver, 80,000 people the first day. We'll be back. With a wonderful run, Bobby Rayhall leads this race at the Meadowlands a good 4 seconds in front of his rival, Rick Mears, who is second place, then Michael Andretti, then Emerson Fittipaldi, and Al Unser Jr., after having his problems, has moved up and now runs in 5th place. 85 laps of the 150 are complete. The Quaker State onboard camera with Bobby Rayhall, who is trying to score his first win of the year. Not only that, his first win perhaps with a new engine, the Chevy. We asked him about it.
Well, I don't think we'd be anywhere near as competitive, if we didn't have a Chevrolet. Yeah, we haven't won, but it would have been a lot grimmer, I think, had we, not had a Chevrolet, period. We wouldn't even be in the top 6. So from that standpoint, sure it's a disappointment, but, as I think I've said in many of these interviews, what goes around comes around. It'll happen. You just have to be patient.
Bobby Rayhall at the front of the field. Ari Leyendijk with his problems in the pits. Here's an update from Gary.
And Vince Granatelli is here, Paul. And Vince, they took the wing off. We're working with the gearbox. What was the problem?
We broke a shifting fork, and we only had 4th gear in the last part of the race, but we've got it fixed, and I think we're going to be okay. Well, unfortunately, we're several laps down right now, and it's going to be hard for us to catch up, but since we're running 3rd in points, we have to continue so that we can hopefully finish this race. And
now, Vince, I'm sorry to report, they're just saying that he's now stopped on the racetrack, so he's slowed down. I think we're going to see him back here in a moment. Keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I tell you, the frustration, Paul, for this team, they need sponsorship. They've been battling so hard, as you've chronicled. He's right there in the points. This has got to be a bitter blow.
More than they need it, they deserve it. Ari was in for nearly 4 minutes. They made what changes they could, but he is moving slowly around the circuit, staying out of harm's way, and is now on the pit road heading back in so that Morris Nunn, Peter Parrott, and the Granatelli team can go to work on the car once again. And it's obvious to me they're not going to give up on that car. They're in a points fight. There is no reason that they should let go this early on, even though he is falling well back and doesn't have a shot at winning this race. Bobby Rayhall, of course, does. Michael Andretti is around Rick Mears for 2nd place. So Michael picks up 2nd. Rick Mears relegated back to 3rd now. Fittipaldi is running in 4th place.
Now the real fight starts, because there is nobody between Michael and Bobby Rayhall. 2 Lolas just past the 2 Penske's. Penske's dominated early, but in this second run on the second load of fuel and second set of tires are not as good as they should be on a full race situation.
The onboard camera, Michael Andretti, Quaker State onboard, now into 2nd place. But it's a long way up to Bobby Rayhall. He has a nearly 7-second lead. Let's get a further pits update. Here's Jan Vigas.
Thank you, Paul. Scott Brayton in the Amway car is having one of his best runs of the season, and they attribute it to their new engineer, Ian Ashdown. He comes from the Eddie Sheaver car, and as you guys know up there in the booth, the engineer sometimes can be a real key to these courses. Paul?
There's Ari Leyendijk. He's climbed out of his car and is talking to owner Vince Granatelli.
Not a good situation. We see some oil on his visor. That was because he got close behind cars ahead of him. The first thing they do is give him a drink, because it is extremely hard work as they're in these cars. Very lined up. And look at Emerson Fittipaldi. Now he fills Rick Mears.
Rick Mears, Fittipaldi, they fight for 3rd place. The front of the order, still Rayhall, Michael Andretti, and the Penske team fights among itself. Let's go down to the pits. Ari Leyendijk is now with Gary Gerald.
Well, Ari, the team really battled to get that shifting fork fixed to get you back out. Obviously, it didn't work.
No, too bad. we're really having a good race. I felt I could be, you know, staying right there with the leaders, no problem, but I had just tremendous problems with back markers. I got caught behind some guys, so that's why I fell back, but otherwise, I think we could have been right there in contention at the end.
This team has been doing such a great job, and I know the sponsorship thing is something that you hear about all the time. It must be difficult to stay focused under those types of adversity.
Well, not really. I mean, I can get into the car and drive it hard and do a good job without worrying about the other things, but it is definitely a problem in our team with the sponsorship right now.
Hopefully it's a better week next week in Toronto.
Yeah, thank you.
I tell you, Paul, the guy's been marvelous trying to keep focused, and he has been driving the wheels off, but this one is now complete.
Concentration, Derek, such a key factor in motorsports. It's so easy as we continue to watch the fight between Rick Mears and Emerson Fittipaldi for third place. So easy to be distracted, and Ari is showing remarkable talent at not being distracted.
It really is easy to be distracted. You know, we heard Rayhall talk earlier about the Chevrolet engine. Some people think if only I had a Chevrolet, I could win. Chevrolet engines and concentration and good people are just key elements that you must put together to be successful. One without the other is no good.
So Fittipaldi continues his pursuit of Rick Mears. It is a battle for third place. Bobby Rayhall is the leader. Michael Andretti is 3 seconds back and now closing in on Bobby Rayhall. The average speed coming up a bit to 89 miles an hour now. Again, the race record, 99 miles an hour. Al Unser Jr. holds that record set back here in 1988. And Michael Andretti is coming on very strong. Just a few laps ago, he trailed by 7 seconds. Michael Andretti is now 2.6 behind Rayhall. We'll be back with more. Back at the Meadowlands, Danny Sullivan, the Alfa Romeo powered car, currently runs in 9th place. And he comes up behind Willie P. Ribbs, the number 10 car. That's A.J. Foyt that they cycled around just a second ago. And boy, they're both running over very rough sections of the track.
And look at the leader, the second and third. The third is fourth place car. This thing changes around so much here. But Willie T moves across to let those Penske's through because he knows he's not racing with them. But Willie T in the Walker Motorsports car does move ahead, does move over. Sullivan is the next one to be lapped.
So Sullivan now with the Penske cars coming up behind him, trying to keep from going yet another lap down. He currently runs 2 laps behind the leaders. A lot of speculation on this Danny Sullivan car and what Patrick Racing is going to do next year. There's a lot of pressure, I'm sure, from sponsors to get that engine to finally win. It is still somewhat developmental. And Patrick must now be forced with, well, what am I going to do? The new Cosworth engine is available for next year. Can I switch over to that? You know, there's so many possibilities. So here now at the center point of the season, Patrick, as well as so many others, have to start thinking about next year because the commitments are going to happen during the next couple of months. And of course, that stimulates rumors, and there are rumors all over the place.
It's interesting that when Chevrolet came to IndyCar racing, they didn't just have their new engine in one car. They had it in the Penske's and the Patrick car. I think what Alfa Romeo should do is give their engine to other people and accelerate this development curve.
Well, that would, by an exponent of 2 or 3 or whatever, would increase the development, and that's certainly what helped Chevrolet when they were doing. Plus, you get different thinking from different teams.
Exactly. It's just like 2-car teams, I believe, have an advantage when they're good drivers. You get double the feedback, and you can go different ways with testing and try different things and have twice as much work done in a normal test session if you over and above having just one car and one driver.
There's some other speculation that has developed this weekend on Paul Tracy. Now it seems that's turned to fact. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, you remember back in Milwaukee, we talked to Paul Tracy about the fact that he was going to join the Penske team. He would get a chance to test these cars, and the tests have worked out. And now we understand you get a ride in the upcoming Michigan 500 in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's a tremendous opportunity for me to be involved with a Mobile One Penske racing car to race in Michigan. I'm really looking forward to getting my chance for my first race.
And you ran at Michigan recently in a test and right around the 220-mile-an-hour mark.
Yeah, the testing went real well, and Rick was there to help me learn the track and give me some advice, and everything went real smooth. So I guess they feel the progress that I made there is good enough to be in the race. So like I said, to be involved with the team and Mobil 1 sponsoring the car, it's a great opportunity for me.
Well, we wish Paul Tracy well in 3 weeks in the Michigan 500. Paul?
He won 9 of 14 races in the ARS last year. Now the Indy Lights Series. Look at this as the leader having to work his way through just a whole gaggle of race cars. Comes up behind Cheever, almost taps him.
Almost taps him. Rayhall earlier on waved his fist at Cheever when he couldn't get by. Never had bit his face. But look at Michael down the inside of Brayton. Brayton sees him, gives him room. But Rayhall about to have his hands full. I'd just like to say, the Paul Tracy interview, I couldn't think of a better situation for a young driver to be picked up and looked after and have your Roger Penske put his arm around you and say, I'm going to give you the opportunity. And Paul Tracy is very talented. He will have everything he needs. Let's just see how he develops from here, but he has a golden opportunity.
And while it's too bad that it didn't happen in Indianapolis, at least that is evidence of the Chevrolet commitment to make more engines available for multiple cars and larger teams running during 500-mile races. Now the interval stretches out. There's Cheever, the target car. Here's Rayhall.
The interval does stretch out. Michael was only 2 car lengths behind Rayhall earlier on. Rayhall coming out onto this front straight. Where is Michael?
A moment ago, Rayhall, as he was coming through this traffic, had to stand all over the brake.
And did you see Michael sideways behind Eddie Cheever, behind Scott Brayton also, sideways under braking both these leading cars.
Up very wide here. Traffic can be incredible. And you have to have lightning-fast reactions to be able to maneuver your way through traffic. And there's an interesting situation that we saw there. Here is Rayhall, the leader of the race, closing on a slower car, and Michael Andretti instinctively moves a little wide, knowing that that's going to be a very close situation, and he must be in a position to be able to get around it should the opportunity afford itself.
Anticipation is a great word to use in a situation like that, because you have to try and anticipate what's going to happen. And if an incident occurs where wheels begin to touch, you've got to be able to move aside, assess the situation, and go through if you can. Now remember, that takes a millisecond, but that's all the time you have when you drive a race car at 150 miles an hour to make the decision sometimes.
One concern we have had this past week, and we can now give you some fairly good news. Last week, Jared Krisilov, who is a 2-time national champion in BMX, who is also a member of the family that runs the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Steve and Josie Krisilov's boy, fell, landed on his head. They thought that it was very, very serious injuries. In fact, it is serious. There's a couple of vertebrae in his neck that are fractured there. But the good news is that what paralysis there was seems to be going away. And while he's at the Vanderbilt Medical Center now, they hope to transfer him back up to Indianapolis very soon. Penske cars, we continue to watch. Scott Goodyear right there staying in the fight. And Allenser Jr. closing down on Fittipaldi. So the battle developing back up at the front of the field. Scott Goodyear once again with a great run. Here's a kid, young Canadian, stays in every fight. I mean, he's really game to stay with it.
Now we're inside Al Jr.'s car. The numbers on his steering wheel will get a better look at it as he straightens out here. It's actually 38.2 as opposed to his teammate, which was 37. So Al Jr. must be getting better fuel mileage.
Fittipaldi is in. Here's Gary.
Paul, we understand that Fittipaldi has a clutch problem. We're going to watch closely now to see if they'll have to push to get him going. They are showing now that they've completed the tire change. Here come the fuel hoses. Here's the critical moment. Very slowly, trying to get it to catch. 4 men pushing. Now it engages. He's out of here.
Shades of his problems at the Indianapolis 500 as Fittipaldi with the whole crew running back to the car and gets him back rolling again. What they're doing there is getting some momentum in the car so the clutch won't have to work as hard once it links up. And Fittipaldi with Andretti coming right up on top of him. And Rick Mears comes in. Here's Gary once again.
And again, watching the other part of the Penske team in action so swiftly, so routinely, they go to work. But these seconds, of course, critical. You can lose or gain so much in the fifth. And again, a very aggressive departure by Mears.
So both the Penske cars have now made what should be their last stop of this race on the 107th of 150 laps. And Michael Andretti no longer under power, rolling down to his pits. Jan Beekes is right there.
Michael Andretti brings it in, but not under power. A couple laps earlier, he developed a very bad misfire, but decided to stay out on the track.
Look at the back of the
Something's
car.
coming out of the back. We can't see it from our view because we're way up at the front of the car. But what has happened is it probably has overheated because he came back with a very bad misfire earlier, and they're just hoping that they can get him back in the action ball.
Overheating sounds logical. There is a drain from the engine coolant system at the back to deal with an overpressure, and with so much fluid out there, that looks like that engine's cooked and done.
Yeah, big trouble. Not a good sign at all.
Here's the leader in. Gary Gerald is there.
Well, we saw signs of overheating on one of the Penske cars out of the left side pod near the radiator. Meanwhile, Rayhall down off the jack. They completed the tire change. He's really revving the engine. Now he's out of here. This is an excellent stop. We had him on our clock right around the 13-second mark.
Right on the money, Gary Gerald. 13 seconds. Rayhall in and out of the pits. Indeed, you did see some evidence of misting on the left side pod as Fittipaldi made his stop. And in fact, after the first practice, somewhat I think to their surprise, the Penske team changed the opening size, enlarged it. Yeah, definitely Michael's day is done. They actually enlarged on the Penske team the opening for the coolers because they were surprised to find out they needed more cooling here. Michael Andretti. Well, he was second coming in here.
Does that expression tell you something? I mean, a hard day's work and everything goes away with a mechanical problem. So all Michael can do is think of the days in the future.
And he can only think ahead to next week in Toronto. But for the moment, this is going to be a devastating blow to Michael's fight for PPG points. Coming from all the way in the back, Al Unser Jr., after these stops, has moved up into third place behind Rick Mears in a most spectacular drive. His teammate, Bobby Rayhall, is leading this race right now. After the second round, what should be the last round of stops for all these cars. But little Al should be up and challenging Rick Mears very shortly. Michael Andretti, prematurely out of this race, is with Jan Beekens.
Thank you, Paul. We're with Michael Andretti. Michael, we heard you go by with a misfire. Is that what put you out?
Yeah, something internally in the engine. It let go pretty big as I was coming in for my pit stop. You know, it gave me a warning a few laps earlier when I was right up on Rayhall. And then it went away. And then as I was coming in the pits, it just blew up.
Did you think you could get by Rayhall if that hadn't happened?
Who knows? You know, the way traffic was working, you know, I felt like I was running right there with this pace, and the fuel mileage was okay because of the yellows, and, you know, I was happy to run in second as long as I needed to, and if I would have had a shot at him, I would have taken it. But if not, you know, I was trying to go for the points, and now we come up with nothing.
Okay, Michael Andretti out early. Paul?
Meantime, out on the course and in the action, look at there. Al Unser Jr. got around Rick Mears for second place. Here was the situation.
This is the same place we saw all the action earlier today. The end of the back stretch into turn 2. Junior goes down inside Rick. Rick is very wide, doesn't contest the position, and Al Jr. is now in a strong second place. Two teammates, first and second.
So Al Unser Jr. ran off the course, had to find his way back on it. Literally ran off. He ran through an escape road and moved to last and had to come back up. Now runs in second place, and very shortly will be closing on the leader of the race, his very own teammate, Bobby Rayhall. There's little Al as he flashes across the line, completing lap 115 of the 150 scheduled distance. 180 miles here at the Meadowlands Grand Prix. With Rayhall leading it, then Mears in third place. Al Unser Jr. is second. Back to the Meadowlands Grand Prix, there's John Andretti, who runs in fifth place right now. Same car that he was involved in an accident at the Meadowlands last week. They got it fixed and have it in action here today. Don't forget, the Olympic Festival is underway in Los Angeles, and we'll have plenty of coverage here on ESPN. Check your local listings. The race continues. The Meadowlands, the halfway point in the PPG IndyCar World Series, and the middle of 3 road races 3 weeks in a row. From here, the series moves on to the Lakeshore at the Exhibition Place in Toronto, Canada. One of the favorite stops of the series. All the race drivers seem to love it up there. Good food, good entertainment. And in fact, a very special foundation dinner next Thursday night. Going to honor some of the members of the series. That's Jim Hall Jr. If you're a go-karter, you probably know this name. He has an excellent go-karting school, but now he's helping his his dad keep track of John Andretti and their effort this year that in the very first race netted a victory. But victory for this man, will it come here today? Bobby Rayhall, the STP Craco machine. He runs in front, has a substantial lead, as you can see at the moment. As Debbie Rayhall, his wife, keeps track from the pit area. Al Unser Jr., his teammate, runs in second place, 13 seconds behind Rayhall. But what a spectacular story Al Unser Jr. has been. Who's had his problems, fell all the way to the back of the order during those yellow flags at the start and had to work his way up through the field. The Penske cars, Mears, Fittipaldi, run third and fourth. John Andretti, you just saw him, he runs fifth. Eddie Cheever, the target car, is sixth. Then Danny Sullivan in seventh. Scott Goodyear in eighth. Ninth is Scott Brayton. Willie Ribbs runs in 10th right now as he breaks into the top 10. And this man, Hiro Matsushita, is in 11th place. What a nice run for him, because Hiro came all the way from the 11th row to come up and now run in 12th place. So that's a great run for Hiro Matsushita. Pretty important, too, because a bunch of the Panasonic executives are here at the track, so Hiro is really showing off for them. Let's hope they've got some extra money for the kid.
That's right, and he had a difficult situation here because he'd never been here before, very little time in the car. What he did was lap after lap, learning the course, learning how to drive this, but of course, it rained on the second day, so hardly anybody ran. So really, he's going through his learning curve and learning the racetrack now during the race and putting on a good performance.
Mike Groff comes up to overhaul A.J. Foyt. Mike Groff is running in 11th place, and Hiro Matsushita is right behind Groff. That's Fittipaldi in there as well. But the fight here is actually between Matsushita and Groff. Foyt's not a factor. Fittipaldi is not a factor because Fittipaldi's running up in 4th place, still trying to catch up to Rick Mears.
You mentioned earlier on, Paul, the schedule that these people must go under right now, 3 races and 3 weekends. Normally, to strip down these cars after a race, it takes about 2 days. It takes 2 more days to rebuild the car because they just about take every nut and bolt apart. Now, that's 4 days. Well, if they race on consecutive weekends, remember, they've also traveled across the country and up to Canada. So it gives you an idea of the workload that these mechanics have to perform in these 3 consecutive weekends.
A.J. Foyt and Danny Sullivan coming up to battle with Matsushita, and Sullivan gets past Matsushita, and now Foyt is lined up behind him. Scott Brayton, of course, in the 22 car there, is running in 9th place with a fairly decent ride for that machine.
Lucky to get away earlier on with that incident with Mario Andretti when he went down the inside, hit the rear of Brayton's car, spun Brayton, but luckily didn't bend the suspension, got away with it.
So at the front of the order, it remains Rayhall, 14 seconds out in front of his teammate, Al Unser Jr. You're riding with Bobby Rayhall, the leader of the race, perhaps on to his first victory of the 1991 season. He is the current points leader. So, well, when he finish right now, he'll pick up 125 points in the series, and that will keep him solidly at the front of the order. Check at pointing. He came into this race certainly the points leader. He will leave it certainly that way, and we'll keep track of how the points may come out here. But Rayhall, who has really wanted to score his first win of the year, you know, it's one thing to be a points leader, but race drivers truly want to win races.
And I can guarantee you, it absolutely got old, the interviews he's had to do over the last 3 or 4 races, because the leading question at every time is, why were you second place? What's it like to be second? And really, I'm sure it got frustrating for Rayhall because it doesn't take much just to have that added little extra piece of the victory. We've seen him win many times. Now, he still controls the pack here.
But we have to remember as he comes up on Hiro Matsushita, this is a very tight course. It's already taken its toll in race cars here today. And at just any moment, the slightest mistake, and Rayhall could be out of the fight. Now, he must keep his pace going despite a 14-second lead over the second-place car of Al Unser Jr. If he slows down, then Al catches him. If he slows down just a little bit, then isn't he out of his rhythm?
That's the thing. Rhythm is so important on a racetrack like this because rhythm helps keep your concentration. When you have rhythm, you hit the same braking points right here, turning point right there, turning point right there all the time. Maintain the rhythm, maintain the concentration, and less likely to make a mistake.
But we're seeing for the moment a very careful Bobby Rayhall in the Quaker State onboard camera. If Rayhall would win, and Al Unser Jr. stay where he is and finish second, then Rayhall could increase his points lead to 30 or 31 possibly points, depending on laps led. And little Al would run up from 4th to 2nd place, so the Gallus organization, the Gallus-Craco team, would be 1st and 2nd in the points at the end of this race. That is, of course, if the race ended right now, but it's 128th lap. We need to get to the 150th, the 180th mile, if we're going to see how that will finish. And Rayhall, in fact, now has run enough laps that he will pick up the single bonus point for running the most laps in a given race. Let's take a look at the interval. There is Rayhall down to the inside as he comes across the line. We watch for Al Unser Jr. Mashusta comes through. Way back, should be about a 13-second wait before we see Al Unser Jr. There he is, and that is the distance the little Al must now make up.
And we saw little Al get his pit board right as he came into view. His pit board man shows him the board. On that is the time. He's behind Rayhall, whether he's catching or losing, and little Al can judge the pace that he's racing at, because if he's slowly catching Rayhall, he'll know the number of laps he's left, and he'll know whether he can go a little bit faster or whether he has any chance that he needs to just maintain his position.
Cars out, Jeff Andretti, Ted Krappus, Tony Bettenhausen, Didier Tays, John Jones out of the race, Ari Lyondike, Scott Pruitt, and Michael Andretti with his overheating problem. Those are the cars not running. 15 still are, led by Bobby Rayhall. Mario Andretti, who was in the fight at the early point, is now running in 15th place as he continues to struggle with that now repaired race car. The front of the order, well, Rayhall and Al Unser Jr., the Gallus-Craco team, now dominate here at the Meadowlands. We'll be back with more after this. The question at the Meadowlands Grand Prix will be, is there enough laps left in this run? Bobby Rayhall leads the race. 12 seconds back now is Al Unser Jr. But little Al has whittled away 2 seconds in the last couple of laps. Here is John Andretti as he came around Emerson Fittipaldi for 4th place just a few moments ago. Fittipaldi very definitely has some sort of a problem. Gary Gerald is trying to keep track of that in the Penske pits as well. There are no problems here at the front of the field. Bobby Rayhall is in great shape. Let's check with Gary now.
Yep, Paul, the understanding here in the Fittipaldi pit is that Emerson is radioing and that there's something definitely wrong in the engine department. It's not like it totally goes away, but it's not giving it the 100% efficiency. It's like it's shorting out. They're afraid that it's something to do with the electronics. They've summoned the Chevy engineers down here, conferring with the Penske engineers. Emerson's just trying to soldier and hang on for these final laps to get points in the finish, but it may be very shaky as to whether or not he can make it to the end.
That's Chuck Sprague there, team manager for the Penske organization. He talks to Fittipaldi on the two-way radio. Rick Reineman was just behind him. Obviously a serious conference trying to figure out what they can do about this car. Interesting radio communications, too, because they talked about getting the Chevrolet engineers down. Not only do the two-way radios, as we watch Fittipaldi, very definitely off the pace now. They have radios in the pits to not only talk to the drivers and the pit board, but to the different support areas like the engineers from Chevrolet.
There are so many people now associated with these teams that have important positions. They all need to be in contact with one another should a situation arise where they need information or advice. Now, in a situation like this, when Emerson is in such deep trouble because he has a serious misfire as he went by here, I don't think any amount of advice or help is going to help him, because that misfire is way, way too bad.
It's almost like the space shuttle. Like they can look at the telemetry. The engineers say, we've seen this before, been under this circumstances, we can react this way, but not always can they do anything about it. Bobby Rayhall takes a high-flying lead into the corner and is looking very solid, because now he has managed to put a second back on the second-place car of his teammate Al Unser Jr. Rick Mears continues to sit just behind little Al, but not in contest with him. John Andretti, with a good run, has moved up into 4th place. Fittipaldi, running off the pace, now runs in 5th position. Eddie Cheever, the target car, well, he runs in 6th. Danny Sullivan is 7th. Scott Goodyear is 8th. Scott Brayton is 9th. And Willie Ribbs runs in 10th place. His 10th place equals his career best finish, scored last year at Vancouver. Now look at Rayhall in traffic. That's Sullivan just ahead of him. Now pacing is critical.
Sullivan sees Rayhall, moves to the right-hand side, lets him get along with his race. Now Rayhall right up behind John Andretti. He will lap John Andretti when he makes the pass here.
So John Andretti, similar power, Chevrolet power just ahead. Here is your Pioneer race recap. After 135 laps, 4 cautions have really slowed the average speed of the race down. We're at 84 miles an hour. The race record is 99, held by second place Al Unser Jr. The Quaker State onboard camera as Bobby Rayhall continues to engage this traffic. Now that's Cheever just ahead as John Andretti was able to move around Eddie Cheever and take the position. Now Rayhall, despite the fact that these are battles going on in front of him, wants to get around these fights as well. But those are fights for position just ahead of Rayhall.
That's right, a difficult situation for Rayhall, but really, I don't think Cheever will hold up the leader too much. He really shouldn't. Earlier on, we saw him and Rayhall waved his fist, but Cheever is wide. Rayhall doesn't get through.
A.J. Foyt, the number 14 car, down to the inside, gives way. There was some question here in the pits as to whether or not this might, in fact, be A.J.'s last road race. Bobby Rayhall finally gets past and can continue running in the lead. We'll be back. So the battle for the PPG Cup goes on, the symbol of the IndyCar Championship. This race at the Meadowlands is one of 3 in a row for the IndyCars of karts. And today, the Meadowlands Grand Prix has been brought to you on ESPN by Dodge. For performance, quality, safety, and value, welcome home, America. By Quaker State, the Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Budweiser, the king of beers, with that clean, crisp, cold taste. Nothing beats a Bud. 7 laps to go to the checkered flag. Willie Ribbs is just in front of our leader, Bobby Rayhall, as you watch from his Quaker State onboard camera. But is there a problem? Gary Gerald may know.
Well, Paul, I'll tell you, we thought with all the yellow early that fuel would not be mentioned again in this telecast. But I just checked with team manager Barry Green, and Barry said his words were right on the ragged edge about fuel. They're very apprehensive here, and they're watching it as closely as they can every lap. Rayhall looking for his first win since Meadowlands 2 years ago, 1989.
Boy, if that is true, how would it have been for this team if they had gone without yellow?
Well, the race would be over right now because they wouldn't have any fuel left. But I can hardly believe, with the amount of yellow, that these cars still use that much fuel. But Barry Green knows. He's the man that looks at the clocks and the gauges and everything. Remember, he measures the amount of fuel every time Rayhall makes a pit stop because he knows exactly how many miles he did and how much fuel he used by the amount that goes back to the fuel tank.
You know, we mentioned fuel in so many of these races because they are, in fact, limited to fuel during the running of the races. We asked Rayhall, does that take the fun out of racing?
It's frustrating, I guess. Or to me, it's just an added discipline that you have to be good at. You have to know to drive to your fuel. And you can still do that and still run very competitively. But at the same token, you can't sit there and run more fuel. You can't get greedy or you can't get impatient with where you might be. Because if you wound up the fuel consumption, you could go past somebody. You made the engine run a lot richer, you go past somebody pretty easily. And you have to sit there and you turn it down and, sometimes you think, God, I want to get by him, and the easy thing, as I say, would be to richen it up, but the discipline thing is to get by him some other way. And so it's just an added discipline in my mind, but that's the reality of our series, too.
Well, that problem is something that Bobby Rayhall now must worry about. Really more the crew. Rayhall can only drive whatever pace he can find comfortable, but at the moment, that pace has Al Unser Jr. closing to within 9 seconds of Bobby Rayhall. So there is some very serious concern there, as Rayhall, I'm sure, is short shifting, doing whatever he can. It does take some speed off the lap. It does mean that second place can close up, but the logic would be that second place, being a similar car out of the same team, would be facing some of the same problems. There's Rayhall. He moves past Fittipaldi, still suffering from whatever transmission clutch problem he may in fact have.
I think he may have 2 problems. We know he has a clutch problem because of what we saw in the pit stop earlier, and we know he has a misfire because when he goes by our booth here, there's a very serious misfire. So he's just hanging on, hoping to get some points.
At this point in the race in 1988, it was pouring down rain, and Bobby Rayhall took the win in a rain-shortened race. Now there are 2 laps to go. Will Bobby Rayhall do it in the dry? One of Rayhall's crew, he said, I'm not touching a razor until Bobby Rayhall wins. Maybe we're going to see some clean-shaven crew members for this over, because both of these guys say, if we win, we'll clean up our act.
Yeah, they definitely need to clean up their act. I hope he wins.
So Bobby Rayhall comes down the pit straight now, sees the white flag indicating 1 lap to go in competition for Bobby Rayhall. Fuel is still the question mark. Little Al has closed to within 8 seconds now of Bobby Rayhall. Rick Mears is 3rd. John Andretti is 4th. Eddie Cheever is 5th. Danny Sullivan with Alpha Power is in 6th place. Emerson Fittipaldi, still falling backward, is in 7th. So Bobby Rayhall now works his way on the final lap of 150, approaching the 180th mile. The Preco STP machine. This race has run long. Here comes Bobby Rayhall as he flashes down the pit line. Seems to slow just a bit. Nick Finoro has the twin checkered flags, and Bobby Rayhall has scored his 20th career win and his first win of this season. Bobby Rayhall is the winner at the Meadowlands. But because this race has run just a little bit long, unfortunately, we may not be able to talk with Bobby Rayhall as he acknowledges the cheers of this crowd. If he makes it around fast enough, maybe we could. There are the course marshals who do such a magnificent job as they wave him on and congratulate Bobby Rayhall on his first win of this season. And in the Gallus Craco pits, well, a 1-2 finish for this team. They've done that several times before, and they show their dominance in the sport.
What a great day for this team. A great display. Good statement about the quality of preparation. And boys, get those razors ready, because you need them.
So Bobby Rayhall has scored a victory at the Meadowlands Grand Prix. Now in 1 week, it is on to Toronto, Canada for the Indy cars as the chase continues, but they are all chasing this man, Bobby Rayhall. Paul Page for Derek Daly.